Once upon a time, there was a man named Hayoc Ryan Mugung. He was the leader of the evil sect, one of the three major powers in murim. The Taoists, who believed in harmony with the universe, insulted him for simply being the head of the evil sect. He lashed out because he was tired of hearing, which evolved into a great war between good and evil. Even though the war took place in many places, Hayoc's true aim was the Wudang sect, the home of the Taoists who insulted him. He waged war against them, destroying their temples and killing their sect master and elders. Despite wanting to spare the others and explaining that he only wanted those who insulted him, the Wudang members attacked him first. They cursed him for his treachery and cruelty, which he found amusing. The war eventually ended in a truce, but Wudang, which was known as the Sacred Land for 1,000 years, lost its power and became the weakest of the 9 major sections. 15 years later, Hayoc was on his deathbed, reflecting on the past. He could recall his memories and felt sympathy for his disciples and elders who had sacrificed everything for him. He desperately wanted to see his loyal follower, Cheonwu Myung, who was searching for an elusive herb of immortality to save him, even though such herbs didn't exist. Hayoc wished to see Myung before his final moments. Hayoc started to have trouble breathing. He was 80 years old, and memories of his life flashed before his eyes. He had betrayed the arrogant, defeated the wicked, and backstabbed his allies to reach his current position. He had all the wealth and women he wished, and he was one of the 3 powerful figures in murim. Even though he had all that, he still had some regrets. If he had known he would die like this, he would have used his hidden money. He also regretted not being able to enjoy a steamy night with his new concubine. When he turned to see his loyal disciples and elders, they cursed him as he hadn't died yet. They were relieved to finally be free from him. Even his official disciple, whom he had raised with great care, was against him. They shared the hardships they had endured and looked forward to a better future without him. Hayoc realized how everyone saw him as a scum, but he is one though. He sensed a presence nearby and saw an underworld agent calling his name. It was said that if you heard your name being called 3 times, you would die. Accepting his fate, Hayoc was surprised to see his beloved subordinate, Cheonwu Myung, arriving. He was glad to see Myung, assuming he had given up on finding the immortal herb. However, Myung had actually found it, shocking everyone. Myung quickly fed Hayoc the herb, ignoring the dirt on it. As the Reaper called Hayoc's name for the 2nd time, Hayoc wished someone would silence the Reaper. Myung noticed Hayoc struggling to swallow the herb, so he squeezed it and let Hayoc drink the liquid. Despite the disciples and elders trying to stop him, Myung persisted. Hayoc fought against time as the Reaper began saying his name for the 3rd and final time. In a race against death, Hayoc gave his best effort. In the end, he lost and felt his soul leaving his body. He had missed the opportunity for immortality, preparing to leave behind his wealth and concubine. But as he felt his soul being sucked back into his body, he was happy to be alive again. However, the Reaper grabbed him by his hair. Hayoc had finally won the game of push and pull against the Reaper, but instead of being frustrated, the Reaper smiled at him. Hayoc decided to close his eyes until the Reaper left. When he heard voices of the old around him, he opened his eyes, expecting the grim Reaper to be gone. To his surprise, he saw an old man with the symbol of Wudang, and he realized he was in a new room surrounded by the Taoists. Hayoc was confused about what was happening. He wondered what the Reaper had done to him. Taoists told him he was lucky, but he didn't understand why. He tried to get up, but his body was paralyzed and in great pain. The Taoists witnessed him falling off a cliff while searching for herbs for his master. Hayoc was surprised by this memory. Suddenly, he experienced a headache and new memories flooded his mind. He learned that he was a boy who had been abandoned by his parents and saved by a kind Taoist. The Taoist had lost his skills due to an injury from an evil sect's leader. The boy, who was 17 years old, fell from the cliff while trying to gather herbs to save his mentor. Hayoc was overwhelmed by these memories and wondered whose they were. As the Taoists felt his pulse weakening, they hit his pulse point and infused him with a pure form of energy, called deity qi. This transfer caused even more pain, and Hayoc questioned whether they were trying to kill him at the Reaper's behest. The old men were happy that the transfer was successful, while his master thanked them. However, Hayoc doubted if it was truly a help, considering the intense torture he endured for 4 hours. As the sect master was talking to Hayoc's master, an elder discussed about making him a new disciple, and after some consideration, they decided that Hayoc should become a first-rate disciple to carry on his master's legacy. Hayoc's master agreed, promising to train him to the best of his abilities. The sect leader accepted Hayoc as a first-rate disciple, bringing joy to everyone. Hayoc's master expressed his gratitude, and the sect master asked for a new name for Hayoc, following the tradition of the Wudang. His master named him Jin Mu, and although others were pleased with the name, Hayoc found it lame. The sect master aided Hayoc's recovery by infusing him with deity qi again. And Jin Mu wondered why they couldn't use medicine or acupuncture instead. Hayoc Ryan Mugung, once the ultimate ruler in Murim along with the leaders of the Eclipse demonic cult and the Orthodox Murim alliance, was now considered irrelevant. Hayoc became Jin Mu, a first-rate disciple of the dying Wudang group. Jin Mu pondered what the Reaper had done to him, and as he closed his eyes, he found himself inside the body of a young man. Additionally, the deity energy inside him suppressed other forms of energy, preventing him from using his old martial skills, which he was proud of, Shadow Dragon Core energy. Whenever his master called his name, Jin Mu's body would instinctively respond kindly to him, a reaction he couldn't control. His master's name was Myeong Jin, a person Jin Mu remembered vividly from the past. When he destroyed the Pond of Peace and 3 out of 5 palaces, Jin Mu came across him. Myeong Jin fought until the end to protect the Violet Cloud Palace. Jin Mu regretted sparing Myeong Jin. He believed he should have killed him to avoid this situation. When Myeong Jin asked him to have lunch, Jin Mu responded without thinking with a smile on his face. Inside Jin Mu's body was one of the rulers of the Murim, and he is now cutting onions, making the soup and dutifully preparing his master's lunch. He smashed the plate at that thought and wondered when he would leave this goddamn place. 3 months had passed since Hayoc became Jin Mu. Myeong Jin watched Jin Mu practice martial arts while sipping tea, feeling nervous about what he would do. Jin Mu placed a sword in front of him and used his qi to transform it into a charged sword, surprising Myeong Jin. Normally, achieving this level of skill would take many years. Myeong Jin exclaimed how extraordinary it was for Jin Mu to learn it in just 3 months. Jin Mu realized that his master forgot to mention that he learned everything through verbal teachings alone. After Jin Mu's recovery, he received verbal teachings in the 6 Yang divine arts since Myeong Jin had lost his own skills. Although Jin Mu found it annoying to start from scratch, he couldn't go against his master's words due to the body's memories and instincts. Myeong Jin wondered if it was because of the infused deity qi or if Jin Mu was simply a genius. Jin Mu knew that Myeong Jin wouldn't understand, but he used to be one of the world's strongest beings, so he grasped the power better. In reality, Jin Mu found learning their techniques quite enjoyable, growing his internal energy every day and deepening his understanding of the basic moves. Compared to the dangerous techniques he used before, this was more systematic and safer. He understood why this place was famous. As time went by, he immersed himself deeper in his training, reminiscing about his days as a vagrant training in martial arts. He trained so intensely that he lost track of time, and a year passed without him realizing it. He used his technique to continuously launch swords and struck a tree at a distance, leaving marks. Now, he was able to use sword qi, which was a level higher than the charged sword. He was confident that he could easily defeat other first-class disciples. He felt that Wudang sect martial arts were superior to his previous techniques, except for the superficial aspects. However, one problem remained: his internal energy was improving too slowly. He wished he could use his old energy techniques, but it was impossible to coexist with the deity chi already within him. He wanted to find a way for the two energies to coexist, and there was a method to achieve it. Half a year ago, an annoying second-class disciple mentioned this while observing his training. The second-class disciple wondered if he should put in so much effort for the position of master disciple. He shared the information that becoming a master disciple would provide an opportunity to train under the sect master, which initially didn't interest Jin Mu. However, when he learned that the master disciple would learn how to control two energy types, his interest was piqued. Using two energies within one body was the Wudang sect's most secret technique. Jin Mu believed this technique had been lost for centuries, as he had never seen a martial master utilize it before. If he could learn it, he would be able to control his shadow dragon core energy without interference from the deity chi. To confirm, he asked the second-class disciple again, who affirmed its truth. While contemplating, the disciple mentioned that it was impossible since many first-class disciples aspired for that position. Jin Mu sneered, as no one knew his true potential. Throughout history, strength always prevailed in murim, and he decided to achieve the master-disciple position through his own strength, defeating anyone who stood in his way. Now that he had discovered a way to use his old techniques, only one thing prevented him from leaving the Wudang sect: his master's health, which concerned his current body. He cooked chicken for his master. As seeing Myong Jin alive after everything was a miracle, and his body worried about him daily. Whenever he tried to leave, his body compelled him to return. Myong Jin needed to be healthy for him to leave, and the only way to ensure that was by feeding him meat. He grew frustrated with the Wudang bastards who fed the sick person grass instead of protein and vitamin-rich meat. It took some time, but eventually, he managed to make his master eat meat, despite it being prohibited. Now that his master was better, it might be possible for him to leave for a while. As he continued his training, he pondered why he hadn't mentioned his plan to his master. He was certain that if he asked about it, his body would reveal everything, as it was incapable of lying to him. While lost in thought, he heard a voice nearby and instinctively swung his sword, only to find a stranger standing there. The person screamed in response. The stranger asked if he was Jin Mu, but Jin Mu had never seen him before. Based on his clothes, Jin Mu deduced that he was a second-class disciple. He wondered how someone could resemble a pig. The stranger introduced himself as Chung Wu from the Culmination Hall, delivering food supplies to Jin Mu. This encounter marked the first meeting between Jin Mu and his future disciple. Like and subscribe to learn more about the journey of one of the rulers of Murim in the body of a young man named Jin Mu. Let's see what he will do to save the sect he once destroyed.